going on, Vikings fans? Welcome into the show. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we got a big-time salary cap update on your Minnesota Vikings as this guy right here, Garrett Bradbury, who was released during NFL free agency, well, the Vikings are actually getting some benefits to the cap with that release. So could a big move be coming? We'll break that down on today's show. And then also, I do want to give you guys my thoughts on the Kwesi Adofo-Mensah extension that broke Friday. Sorry I couldn't get a video out to you guys earlier. That was one of my off days, and I had some stuff I need to handle. But I wanted to just give you guys my thoughts. I have some mixed feelings on this extension, but mostly positive, so we'll break that down on the second half of today's show. But some programming news here. We're actually only 2 subscribers away from 57,000 subscribers here at Vikings now. I can't believe we're even closing in on that milestone, so it's all credit to you guys. But we just need 2 of you guys to hit that subscribe button today. So if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel. We post a video every single day around your Minnesota Vikings, so hit that subscribe button today. All right, let's dive into it. So Over the Cap was writing up an article this weekend talking about a lot of teams that are getting some big-time news on their salary cap after the post-June 1 cuts are official, since today is June 1st. And they mentioned the Minnesota Vikings, saying the Vikings gain $5.25 million with the release of Garrett Bradbury. I thought this was a surprising use of a post-June 1 since the dead money deferred to 2026 is so low, but I guess every penny counts. Bradbury's cap number drops from $6 million to $814,000 with the release. He will count for $1.628 million on the team's 2026 salary cap. Bradbury is on a 2-year contract with the Patriots that is worth $9.5 million. The Vikings have around $19 million in cap room, most of which will be carried over to help out with the team's 2026 cap situation, which is currently 3rd worst in the NFL. And I know a lot of people might see that $19 million left here on this year's upcoming cap, and they may think, oh, the Vikings are going to make a big-time move. I will say this. NFL teams like having at least, like bare minimum, $5 million to spend during the regular season because there could be an extra free agent they could pick up, or there could be a guy at the trade deadline. There are a bunch of different avenues you could use that $5 million to in the 2025 season. So they like to at least just have $5 million to spend. But what I'm thinking with that $19 million is, what if the Vikings make a trade deadline move? You know, we have seen Kwesi in past years get very, very aggressive at the NFL trade deadline. Most famously, the T.J. Hockenson trade, which was on none of our bingo cards in terms of a possibility at the deadline, but he ended up making a big-time move, so maybe the Vikings keep that extra salary cap just in case they have to take on a salary for a big-time player. But also, this just depends on how the Vikings start the season. Like, you know, if they're 2-3, I don't expect the Vikings to make a deadline move, but if they're 4-1, 5-0, maybe they view this truly as a Super Bowl window or a Super Bowl year. Maybe they try to get aggressive and go trade for some of these big-time players. Because also, we never know who truly is going to be on the trade block when the trade deadline rolls around. Like, you know, a random team who we all think is going to be really good, they could start slow, and then maybe one of their top players could be available for a trade. But I think the Vikings' first 5 games are very gettable, and that should leave them in a spot to be buyers at the NFL trade deadline. I think they should start off 2-0. I know in Chicago, tough place to play, but I think the Vikings are just a better team than the Chicago Bears. Chalk that up as a win. At home against the Falcons, probably going to be 6-point favorites in that matchup, Sunday Night Football. I expect them to get a win there. Now, the Bengals, that game's probably going to be a shootout, so call that a 50-50 game. But then I also expect them to win both their games overseas. So, at minimum, I think the Vikings will be 4-1 in this first 5-game stretch. Now, anything can happen. These are just projections and just, predictions on my part. But I do expect them to be buyers at the deadline. But I think most likely the Vikings will want to roll this over. I think they're perfectly fine with how the roster is set up for 2025. But if you look at their 2026 cap space, and this is coming in from Spotrac, they are in the negative for $52.55 million. That is actually worse than the NFL, according to Spotrac. Over the cap had them 3rd worst. But when I was looking at the books, it's most likely they're going to be in the negative around $50 million. So they roll that over, clear up some cap space for next season. And also, this right here, this number, I'll talk about why I'm a little nervous about this Kwesi extension. So stay tuned for that. But who could be a trade deadline move for the Vikes? I think Ramsey's going to get traded probably in the next 24 hours. Probably sometime tomorrow he will be dealt. So that wouldn't be a trade deadline move, but you would have to take on a massive contract for Jalen Ramsey if you are going to trade for him. So the Vikings opening up that $19 million, you would still need to maybe restructure a deal here or there just to create more cap space, and maybe the Dolphins, maybe they say, hey, we'll eat maybe $10 million of that in 2025. But even the years after, like 26, you're on the books for $21 million. 27, you're on the books for 21 again, and then in 2028, you're on the books for $24 million. So this is a hefty contract to take on for a player who is also older, past the prime. Yes, still very, very impactful, and I would still be in on the Vikings trading for Ramsey, but the Dolphins would have to eat at least some of this contract. So maybe that's a move the Vikings have up their sleeves, but we'll just have to wait and see. They'll probably go down, within the next 24 hours in terms of a Jalen Ramsey trade. But if you are GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, what would you do? Would you trade for Jalen Ramsey? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, I don't think the Vikings will make any more moves in terms of signing free agents, but here are the top 10 guys that are still left. I don't think they're going to make a move at receiver, so you can cross off Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. Same with Von Miller. I think they're set at edge, but maybe a guy like Marcus Williams, a Justin Simmons, obviously Stephon Gilmore, Julian Blackmon, Raekwon Davis. Maybe those are guys who could sign on a 1 year, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 million deal. I think that's a possibility, but still, I don't see the Vikes making any more late additions before the start of the season. I think that extra cap space is either one, to just roll it over in the 2026, or to make a move at the trade deadline if the Vikings start off hot. But we'll talk about the Kwesi extension here in a second. But we got a sweet deal going on at chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie, where hoodies are up to 50% off. So click that link. I'll have it for you guys in the comments section and description of today's show. But most of these hoodies are up to 50% off, so take advantage. Their summer deals are here. And if you just click that link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie, it will be in the comment section and description of today's show. You guys will get hooked up with a Vikings hoodie up to 50% off. So take advantage today. Click that link, chatsports.com/Vikings hoodie. So this news broke early Friday morning. GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has been extended to a multi-year contract by the Minnesota Vikings. And I have a lot of thoughts on this. And I honestly have mixed feelings about this, because if I wanted to take the optimistic view, I'm saying, all right, Kwesi's been the GM for 3 seasons. The Vikings have had 2 13-plus win seasons. That's a plus. They have had some of the best free agency classes we have ever seen in Vikings history, specifically last season when you're picking up Darnold, Aaron Jones, Cashman, Van Ginkel, Grenard, like all of those guys ended up working out. But why I have mixed feelings about this is because of him drafting. And since 2022, I mean, you take this draft class, you look at every player on the screen, who's an impact player? Lewis Cine was on the Eagles practice squad. Booth's going to be out of the league. Ed Ingram, he'll probably be out of the league shortly. Brian Asamoah, just a special teams guy. Caleb Evans, rotational. Ty Chandler's all right. Like, Jalen Naylor's probably the only good pick out of 22 draft class, which for a 6-rounder, I will give Kwesi some credit. But it didn't get that much better in 2023. I love the Jordan Addison pick. I think that was a home run, but he kind of fell into your lap. And then also, Mekhi Blackmon, I like that pick, but he is still unproven. Jay Ward, Jacqueline Roy, Jaron Hall, and Dwayne McBride, none of those guys are impact players whatsoever for the Vikings. And then even last year's draft in 2024, Kwesi is banking on, honestly, his entire career as a GM on J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner. Well, J.J. did not play his whole rookie year, so that's still a massive question mark. And, pretty much the same can be said about Dallas Turner. But, Kyrie Jackson, that was obviously a terrible situation, and rest in peace. And prayers go out to his family. But Walter Rouse, Will Reichard, Michael Juergens, not a whole lot there. So you look at this 2025 draft class for the Vikes, you're hoping that Donovan Jackson is a Pro Bowl caliber guard. You're hoping Ty Felton, if the Vikings do have to lose Jalen Naylor after this season, that he can be the wide receiver 3. Tiernan Ingram-Dawkins will be the sleeper of this draft. Hopefully he's a diamond in the rough. I love his tape. He's, awesome. And same with Kobe King. But Gavin Bartholomew, Vikings are kind of just banking that he could maybe be a tight end 2 in the league. But why I do have mixed feelings is if the Vikings don't hit on those draft picks, specifically in 2024 and 2025, they're going to be in a rough spot. And that's mainly because of their cap space situation. Because Yeah, it's a lot of love, and it's easy to give Kwesi all this love and all this praise for what he's done over the last 2 years, but he won't be able to do the same over the next 2 seasons. Like, as fun as it was this free agency, like, yeah, we got Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, Hargrave, Allen, made a ton of great additions, and I would have done the same thing if I was Cam. But the problem is, if you don't hit on these draft picks, this roster could be very, very thin. Where, yes, you would still have the Darisaws, the Jeffersons, hopefully McCarthy and Dallas Turner, and like the Grenards and all these blue chippers work out. But if you don't build through the draft, your depth is going to be depleted. And you just take Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles. Like, go look at their last 8 first and second round picks. They're all home runs. Like, I'm hoping, and I'm going to give Kwesi the benefit of the doubt here, that maybe some of these guys, specifically in 24 and 25, end up being big-time rotational pieces for this group. But if they're not, this roster is going to be depleted in a couple of years. So I'll ask you guys, do you believe in Cam? If yes, hit that thumbs up icon. If no, comment why down below. I'm going to say yes, even though the most important job of a GM is to draft. And he has probably been the worst drafting GM over the last couple of years. But still, he has overall built a really good team. So I'm still going to trust him. But again, mixed feelings about this Kwesi extension. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. And also, if you guys want to hit me up on Twitter, @PatSieps, if you guys want to yell at me, or if you guys are agreeing with what I had to say on today's show, please hit me up on Twitter. That's a handle right there. And we'll see you all next time. As always, Skol Vikes.